What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of KO Your Brand, the podcast for fame ready entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Katrina Owens, top personal branding and public relations expert. A little shoulder shimmy for those watching on YouTube. I've recently been sharing a million reasons why you should be watching this on YouTube. Last week it was because of Dexter, my adorable French bulldog, who like just a day maker to see him react to how I talk. He's actually almost 9, which is crazy. My parents actually helped me realize his age. I don't like to think about him getting older. But anyways, today, if you're watching on YouTube, it's just me. I'm recording much later in the day than usual. Usually I try to make this like a weekend thing or like an early afternoon morning thing, but it is like 6 o'clock on a Monday. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I guess you might not think that it's different. My energy is just different at 6 p.m. compared to like 2 in the afternoon. Usually by 6, I get a little bit unhinged. It is voting day, okay, election day here in Canada. So, like, I just experienced some like pretty chaotic energy over at the polling station. So, trying to shake that off. And yeah, I'm actually kind of interested to go check out the results after I'm done recording this. But we're going rogue today. And by that, I mean, I initially had a plan for like what I wanted to share on today's episode. And because it's 6 o'clock, I got to a point where some things happened today. And I was like, forget the plan. Fuck the plan. I'm going to share my unhinged thoughts because I think that's what most of you are listening for, anyways. So, what I figured I would do today is I want to give you like some raw and real thoughts in the moment, because as I was waiting in line to vote, I was checking my DMs, still trying to be productive while I was waiting in line, and I received a message from someone asking if I offer like white label public relations support. And honestly, I was like, clearly we don't listen to the podcast or like look at my content that much if we still think I do that. But that's a different discussion for a different day. But what I wanted to get into today, because honestly, anytime someone asks me like, should they hire a public relations agency to do their PR? I've got some thoughts. So I figured what I wanted to do today was actually give you like my kind of unhinged opinions on why personal brands should be doing their own public relations. This is what I believe in. I do not offer done for you PR management at all because I hate a hypocrite. I really do. And for a long time, I was a bit of a hypocrite where if you paid me enough money, because you can charge a lot of money for public relations outreach, I would still do it. And that was like in direct conflict with my values, honestly. So yeah, I had to stop offering that because it just felt icky and I just didn't believe in it. And now I'm really proud to say every single service, offering, podcast episode, event that I speak at, they're all things that I like really believe in, which changes the energy of business, right? I get to wake up every single day really believing in the work that I do and the coaching that I do with clients. So that's a powerful thing. But because I had that interaction with a follower, I figured what better time than to just dive into like why I feel so strongly about this, right? So let's get into it. So, because I actually don't have talking points outlined for this episode. I mean, I do. If you're watching on YouTube, they look like this right now. Usually I like print out like a full outline. Like this is how many minutes I'm going to spend talking about this, and then I'm going to go to this point, and then this is what I'm going to promote. Like if you know me, if you really, really know me, you'll know that I love organization. I love a plan, but yeah, I just was feeling really inspired, and I figured, like, what better way for you guys to really get to know me than to just hear my raw and real reaction to this question. Because yeah, after I was asked that, and I was just like, "Listen, that's not something that I offer." And I was like, it was kind of interesting because it was someone that I felt like should know that I don't offer that, but that's okay. Clearly, I don't do a good enough job at communicating this particular perspective, which is fine because for a long time I felt a little bit weird feeling this strongly about done for you public relations and PR agencies and publicists. But I have to leave that behind me. So this is me right now sharing like my boldest. It feels like some of you are going to listen to this and be like, Katrina, this is not even like that hot of a take, like freaking relax. But to me, um, doing things differently or like going against the grain has always felt a bit uncomfortable. I mean, I am like a corporate good girl, right? You guys, I like love to follow the rules. I love a rule. And I guess that's maybe not true for me anymore, but for a long time it really was. So that's why it's been challenging for me to really step into sharing this like bold take that really goes against an entire industry. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret because I'm all about like sharing my manifestations out loud on this podcast, which I hope one day just scratch that, Katrina. We got to flip the language. Not I hope. We don't hope. We know. I know one day someone's going to dig up like these old podcast episodes and be like, wow, Katrina really did manifest this because on April 28th, 2025, Katrina said, one day, now this is the manifestation. I just have this vision of myself one day being on like the front cover of Forbes or like whatever magazine or medium is really like the hottest of the hot in 10 or 20 years. It's kind of like well, as soon as I get into a little bit more of the context, you're going to understand why this goal is like, I got to do some quick math. Okay, so I'm 32. So like 30 to 40 years. So like this manifestation is like really in the works. And of course I'll still have this podcast. This is going to be a 7-figure podcast over and over again, a million times over by the time 40 years hits, right? So I have this vision of myself on the front cover of the magazine or like I don't know if it's like a billboard. Maybe it's probably both. It's probably all of the things where it's like she transformed an entire industry. And Gabriel actually, when I shared this manifestation with him, he was like, "Yeah, one day people will call you like the grandmother of public relations," and I agree because sure, I could continue to just offer my PR coaching, personal branding coaching programs and really build my personal brand off of that and not share like the really hot perspectives or like bold opinions that I have. There are people that do that. Actually, shout out because I think some of them probably listen to this podcast. So if you're like a competitor of mine and you're listening to this, I see you and I know it's okay. It's okay. We can do the same thing. We can. It's just you're never going to do it quite like me and I'm never going to do what you do quite like you, and that's fine. That's why we can all belong in the same ecosystem, right? We all have our own blue ocean. But anyways, I do not see anyone in my industry, even if they also offer PR coaching or a version of the kind of programs that I do. No one is talking about this particular point, which is the traditional way of doing public relations doesn't work anymore. And I hate to see entrepreneurs, business owners spend their hard earned money on public relations agencies and publicists that are not going to deliver the results that you think they are going to deliver. And so, with that, that's what we're getting into today. So, let's dive right in. I'm going to tell you all of the reasons why. So, if you are listening to this and you have been wondering if you should hire an agency to help you speak on more stages or get in magazines or on more podcasts, I'm going to tell you why you should not spend your hard-earned money on that. I'm going to tell you what you should do instead. And honestly, this is going to be my greatest episode of all time for now. Like, within the next couple months, I think this is the one that's really gonna blow up, because I look at the analytics and I see what people are drawn towards the most, and I know just how many people out there are like, should I just spend the $5,000 a month on a publicist or PR agency? And the answer is absolutely not. Do not. You can do it yourself for much less money and far less time, honestly. So let's get into that. So let's start from the top, because in my little like chicken scratch notes as I tried to plan out this episode, I tried to make this a little bit, a little bit intuitive. So hopefully this isn't like, Heather, when you go to edit this, I hope that it isn't like just totally unhinged. I know we had some issues in the beginning with me and my filler words when here it is. The ums are okay sometimes, I think. Fuck. Here we go. Let's just get into the episode. Okay, so reason number one. Public relations at its core is relationship building. So whether it's building relationships with journalists, event hosts, podcast hosts, it is much more beneficial for you to own the relationships as opposed to a middleman owning the relationships and coordinating things for you. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of what this looks like. So one of my previous clients, was in the professional hockey industry. And back in the day, we actually used to work together on done for you PR. So I was hired to do PR outreach on his behalf. And it was great. He got on some top podcasts, got a couple good press placements. But when he came back to me about must have been like 6 to 8 months later, I said, listen, this is going to be way better for you and your career if you form the relationships with the journalists yourself. And so that's what he did. He joined my one-on-one publicity coaching program, and I essentially created a list of all of the journalists that I knew would be most beneficial for him to form relationships with. Because for him, working in that industry, it didn't make sense for me to create those relationships and always middleman them. Now he, from a really beautiful place of authenticity, could start reaching out to these journalists that I knew were going to be a great fit for him and his work. And he can continue to go back to them whenever he has a story, whenever he has something that he thinks they might want to cover. He can go back and just say it. He doesn't have to rely on me. He doesn't have to waste my time by like telling me his idea and then waiting for me to pitch and then me taking the message and relaying it back. That's how old school public relations has been done. Okay. So if you are unfamiliar, if you hire a public relations agency or a publicist, they're going to constantly middleman all of those relationships for you. So you are never going to actually meet the journalist or the podcast host or the event coordinator that can give you these opportunities so you can see what other collaboration opportunities there are. Or it really prevents you from maintaining long-standing relationships with the media because you're relying on whoever you've hired to always be the go-between. And to me, that's like kind of stupid these days, because sure, at a time when email addresses, contact information, social media didn't exist, yeah, it was much harder to form those kinds of relationships because, people didn't just like give their phone number out or, their email address wasn't accessible online. That used to be the case for a really long time. And that's how public relations started, right? Because there would be certain people that had certain connections and you would pay them to have access to their connections. You were literally paying for access. That's all it is. At this day and age, anyone can reach out to anyone. So there really isn't a point for you paying for access anymore. You just need to know who you should be reaching out to and how. And that's really the basis of my publicity coaching program. So all I did for this particular client was create a list of all of the journalists that I thought were going to be the most beneficial for him to form relationships with. And then he worked down the list. And now it's really cool because he has these contacts in his phone. They text, they communicate, they go for breakfast, they go for coffee, they visit each other when they're in the same cities. So now he has this really amazing relationship with these journalists, and it's just organic and authentic. And that really is the root of why I believe we should all be doing our own PR. Every single opportunity I've ever received for myself and my own business has come from a relationship that I've formed. Yes, maybe I had someone make the introduction or tell me, hey, Katrina, you should reach out to this person. But I own the relationship at the end of the day. And that's what's allowed me the opportunity to turn a podcast interview into like a whole collaboration. It's what's allowed me to connect with somebody on Threads, go to an event, and then speak at the next event. That's happened a couple times now. So you see what I mean? It's just not in your best interest anymore to pay someone to give you access when you have the ability to create that access for yourself. So that's the first thing that people will hire a PR agency or a publicist for, is the access. But if you're like, okay, I'm sold on the access, but I still don't know how to pitch, and I'm not convinced that I have the skill set to be able to do the outreach that I need to do. Well, okay, so we've covered access. So now let's talk about this. Pitching is a transferable skill. As a business owner, you must learn how to pitch, whether you're pitching to a potential client, investors, the media, something else. Pitching in its form and structure is always the same thing. So it's something that you as a business owner need to learn how to do for the sake of your own business. And once you can master that skill and you know what the general structure is and the different parts that need to be included, you can become your own pitching master. So you having this block around like, okay, well, I need someone to do the outreach on my behalf. No, you do not. You do not, because you can learn how to pitch. Or, if you're like, well, Katrina, I just don't have the time because I don't want to spend hours pitching. We're going to come back to that in a second. You don't need to spend hours pitching, but what you can do is build the skill set in-house. So if you have a virtual assistant, if you have a social media assistant, a marketing coordinator, any type of position where that person already handles like either administrative duties for you or marketing duties for you, you should be training that skill to build a more sustainable business for yourself. Me personally, I don't think it's sustainable for business owners to be spending like thousands of dollars on monthly retainers for publicists or PR agencies so someone can be doing that outreach on your behalf, when it would be much more sustainable for your business if you could hire that skill set in-house, grow your team. Honestly, this is a hot take in itself, but I feel the same way about social media. If you're a personal brand, I do not think you should be outsourcing your social media management. And if you are, I need you to take a good hard look at the content that's being produced for you and really decide if it's being an accurate portrayal of your unique position. And this is exactly why I had to shed my agency, because I was in conflict with so many of the things that I believed in, because my agency was running social media for personal brands. And because we were taking that task away from the personal brand, and like we had to make assumptions about what someone's unique perspective was and their opinions and stuff like that, it just wasn't hitting as much that it would is if the client would just do it themselves. Because if you're a personal brand, especially if you're in the early stages, so say you're like a Kim Kardashian. Do I think Kim Kardashian needs to be doing her own social media? No, she doesn't. But look, this is someone who has multiple assets at this point in time. She is not there like needing to like create relationships or engage with other social media accounts. Kim is going out into the real world, creating real business relationships with people. So she doesn't need to be doing this online, but as a personal brand, when you're really wanting to start securing speaking opportunities for yourself specifically, and I say this because like pitching to traditional media and podcasts, you can, in theory, like not have like so much of the personal element attached. But if you want speaking engagements, if you really want to start speaking at like all those hot marketing conferences that you're seeing pop up online, or like if there's an industry event that you really want to speak at, you got to have the right relationships to get in that room. That's just how it works these days. So going back to building the skill set in your team, if you can teach somebody within your team, within your organization, even if you're a small business and you have a team member of one, if you can train them on how to do outreach for you, you don't have to spend time doing that, but then you're also growing the PR skill within your own business. And that means you never have to outsource it, because then you can start creating standard operating procedures around it. You can have other team members get trained on PR, and you can really actually like exponentially increase your results, because you're no longer relying on like, ooh, I've met my hourly retainer for this particular publicist, so they can no longer like do any more outreach for me this week, or like, however the agency or publicist you're kind of looking at, however they structure their services, you will reach a capacity. Like, even if you hire a publicist to be your publicist, they're not spending hours of their week every single week pitching you. So when you build that skill set in-house and train your team and scale your business with all of these beautiful marketing skills in-house, there's no cap for how much you can do and output and achieve. And that's really freaking cool. Okay. So that's the other thing that I think is important to remember when you're hiring a publicist or PR agency. Public relations management ain't cheap. Minimum retainer these days is at least $4,000 per month. That's $4,000 Canadian or $4,000 USD. My two biggest audiences are Canadian and American. So do the conversion rate on that one if you live anywhere else right now. But you're looking at about $4,000 per month. And that's at the very like base level. So some publicists might say like that includes a certain number of hours of pitching and doing outreach on your behalf. For some others, that might mean they're trying to hit a certain number of targets within a certain time frame, but it's not cheap. And it's so much more beneficial for you to just invest the time. Like what I had written down on my chicken scratch Cole's notes is high cost, low time effort. If you would just invest the time in either sourcing opportunities and pitching them yourself, or building a press ready personal brand that actually just receives opportunities organically without having to pitch, that means you can skip this whole step of having to invest in a formal PR agency or publicist to do this for you. So let's talk about this for a sec, just in case I haven't had a chance to discuss this on the podcast yet. I mean, I think I've talked about having a press ready personal brand before. That's where the blue ocean strategy comes into place. But it's so important to PR in particular, because when you have a press ready personal brand, it means opportunities come to you. Doesn't mean you're spending hours sourcing opportunities and pitching them. The opportunities are now coming straight to you because you have positioned yourself as an expert. You have all this amazing content that represents you as an expert. You're really like showing people why they should be featuring you instead of the other way around. So that's what I think is really beautiful about learning how to do your own public relations, because when you can really like find a groove with it, you're not going to have to spend any time doing formal outreach. I do not have a block in my calendar that says like PR power hour. Although when clients are working with me, I suggest that you do that to start. And maybe that includes pitching in there, but sometimes in a PR power hour, it could also mean like looking up different events you could go to, or it could mean looking on Threads for opportunities, because there are so many opportunities on Threads. But I don't do a PR power hour at all, because I'm convinced that I have enough of a press ready personal brand that these opportunities can come to me. And I'm flexible enough that if I see an opportunity come up, I'm like, I'm going to act on that right now. I know not to wait. I don't like wait for the right time. I just like act on it. And I actually have a really great Pulling Punches episode coming out this week. So this episode's coming out on Wednesday. Stay tuned for Friday because I recently secured a really amazing speaking opportunity somewhere else. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. It's a quick pull and punches to show you that this is how it's done. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, show me what it looks like to do my own PR in action, this is a really great case study. So what I'm finding for pull and punches is, yeah, you guys like quick tips, but the episode I did where I did the live pitch review, you guys really loved that one, which was cool to see. So spinning that concept on its head a little bit, and I'm going to do an episode short and quick to tell you exactly how I secured one of my juicy speaking opportunities. Because I know so many of you that listen to this just want to start speaking more, which is really cool. And actually, that's a great one to kind of land on for my next point. Most publicists and PR agencies will not help you get speaking opportunities. And that's because publicists and PR agencies mostly deal in like traditional media. So that's online publications, industry publications, local media, newspaper, TV, and podcasts. And that's because it's quite easy, quote unquote, easy. I mean, it is easy to pitch to local media, podcast, all of that. If you know how and if you know who, and that's why I believe you can do it yourself because all you need to know is the how and the who, you're going to be able to secure those opportunities. Speaking is a whole different ballgame. And I'm going to deep dive into speaking and the different things you need to consider if you really want to build a career as a speaker. I need to do a whole other episode on that because we can really go into the details there. But the reason why publicists and PR agencies can't or usually do not help you find speaking opportunities is either two things. One, it's relationship driven. Every single speaking opportunity I've received in my career, and I've done I've booked like over 15 in the very short time span, the year and a half basically that I've really grown this part of my business, secured like 15 speaking opportunities. Every single one has come from a relationship. And those are just the in-person ones, by the way. Those aren't even like online speaking in different communities and stuff. But the second point is, if you really want to grow a career as a professional speaker, your strategy needs to look entirely different. So when I talk about speaking opportunities generally on this podcast, I'm talking about personal brands using speaking as a marketing tactic. So that means, yeah, you speak at events and it's to drive business to your business. So you're using speaking as a marketing tactic to grow your clientele. That's what I do for my business, right? When I speak at an event, I know that that particular presentation is going to drive clients to me. Always does. When you are speaking as a career keynote speaker, the strategy, the action is entirely different. Typically, if you are looking to be a paid keynote speaker, and this doesn't mean that if you're using speaking as a marketing tactic that you can't also get paid, you can. But if you are looking to build a career as a paid keynote speaker, that means you want to charge thousands of dollars for the presentations that you give. You will work with a speaker bureau who will sign you, and they will essentially take a percentage of whatever fee you're charging to these different events. That doesn't mean that the speaker bureau is going out and finding opportunities for you, by the way. Sometimes it makes it easier, but like not always. So just going to leave you at that. So we'll talk a little bit more about like all the ins and outs of like speaking. Can really go into the details on a different episode, but I just wanted to really illustrate my points here on why publicists and PR agencies can't really support you on building up your speaking portfolio. I've actually never come across an agency or a publicist that can do that. So if you are one, I'd love to know you. So feel free to pop me a DM on Instagram at Katrina Owens PR or at KO Your Brand. But for now, I'm going to keep on keeping on. That doesn't really exist these days. Okay, so what have we covered so far? We went from talking about You need to own your relationships because you're really just paying for access when it comes to paying a PR agency or a publicist. You got to build the skill in-house, high cost, low time effort. Yeah, and really, there's no holistic approach. So when I work with clients in my one-on-one or group coaching programs, I really support clients in building out the entire press ready personal brand. PR agencies and publicists do not help you do that. And this goes back to the sustainability piece, right? Because when you stop paying that agency or publicist, that means your PR stops as well. And that's also not a great business practice, right? Because PR is something that you need to be constantly engaging with, especially if you're a personal brand. It's not like you just run a quick campaign for 3 or 4 months, stop, and then expect the results to carry on. Not if you don't have that expertise in house. If you're just hiring a publicist for a couple of months because that's all you can afford, it's like turning off the tap because you don't have any of the relationships, you don't have any of the skills. So do you see why it's so important to like build the skill set and like really focus on building like sustainability? And that's actually the part that gets me fired up the most because I'm someone who has made some business decisions, business investments at certain points in my business that I have grown to regret because they didn't give me the results that I wanted. And that's why at the end of the day, I had to stop offering public relations management to clients because PR cannot operate in a silo. And one of the pinnacle moments for me came with one of my clients who I did a killer public relations campaign for them. They landed in top tier media. It was a women's health product that really, they were doing the damn thing. It was really cool to see. But because their brand was not set up in a way to properly convert customers, I could get them all the press that they wanted because I had the connections. But when it came to actually converting those clients, they couldn't. So they were getting featured in top tier media, but seeing zero return. And that's the thing that PR agencies and publicists don't tell you because they're just doing like their one job in a silo. They're getting you the press opportunities, the press placements. That's all they're doing. They do not have the expertise or the want to like go through your funnel, to go to your website, to go to your social media, and to tell you why those press placements aren't converting. And honestly, that's like my biggest qualm because if we think that just securing press, so like just getting different features, if we think that that's enough to drive results in our business, we've totally missed the plot because it's not that easy, right? There's no quick fix when it comes to marketing or growing a business. So when it comes to PR, it needs to work holistically with the rest of your business efforts. And this is actually the really cool part about what I do with my clients. When I start working on the PR and personal branding strategies that I do with my one-on-one clients, it's all about the strategy first. So I actually look at the website, the social media, the positioning, the funnel. I look at all of these things and do an audit of them first. Because when a client starts doing their own public relations efforts and really starts channeling energy to that, I want to make sure they see the return on investment. For most of them, it's a return on the time investment. How much time are they spending doing outreach? I want them to know that when they do go on a podcast, they're going to see email subscribers or social media followers or actual sales. And traditional PR and publicists just don't do that part. But I need y'all to be honest with me for a second. How many of you are going to like Vogue.com or Forbes.com and looking at all of the articles that are posted every single day? Literally none of you. Okay. We don't do that. That's not how it works anymore. So why would we think that, oh, I got featured in an article on Vogue.com? Why would we think that that's going to be a traffic driver to our business? But that's what publicists and PR agencies want you to think. That's what it's still positioned as. So I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into why I just don't believe in traditional PR management. This is why I believe in doing it ourselves, why I believe that there's a better way. And for so long, I was like really scared about sharing this take because, I mean, this is how the entire industry operates. But it just doesn't sit right with me anymore. And it really was that DM that I got earlier today that was like, hey, like, do you do white label public relations? And I'm like, no. And honestly, it's not something that you should be offering to your clients either. I didn't say that. Obviously, I really don't think this person listens to this podcast. Otherwise, she would know how I feel. My final point, because hey, at the end of the day, like I can't obviously force any of you to do your own PR or to like really believe in the core beliefs that I have. Some of you out there are still going to try to experiment with this. I know that for a fact. I know there are people out there that are going to be like, I hear you, Katrina, but like I'm talking to this one agency who seems to have it like really all together. So I'm going to spend some time with them and I'm going to like, make the investment and just see for myself. And I think that's totally fine. I think that we should all be free to make our own judgments in our business and the experiences that we have in our business, whether they're good or bad, they just help us become better business owners anyways. So if this is you, there's one last thing I want you to understand. And this is my one last reason why I believe that business owners should at least learn what public relations actually looks like for their business. And it's because if you can understand the metrics and what you should be looking for when it comes to results, you can make better decisions when it comes to selecting an agency. If you must hire a PR agency and you really want to go down that road just to like see, at least understand what PR actually is for yourself first so you can make informed decisions and you can actually know for yourself the productivity and the efficiency of the agency or publicist you've hired, right? So the problem with PR, and this is why public relations really actually gets a bad rep, is because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, someone can say, okay, you got placed on whatever website, let's say entrepreneur.com. This means you've got an estimated this many impressions, this much a placement on that website is valued at X amount of dollars. They can give you all these vanity metrics. But those are just vanity metrics, okay? Just because you've been placed on an article on that website does not mean that you're going to see the ROI from that. To be honest, you might see a more significant ROI coming from a really small podcast audience. You might. I've seen it happen. So when you're working with an agency, if this is the road you decide to go down, if you know exactly what that process is supposed to look like and what metrics you should be asking for, that allows you to make better decisions when it comes to hiring an agency. And it becomes an opportunity where you actually get to decide and measure and tell the agency, these are the results that I'm looking for. So it puts you back in the position of power as opposed to like relying on the agency to kind of guide you. So really, guys, I really hope by the end of this episode, you are just like, yeah, you know what, Katrina, I'm ready to like build a high performing PR skill within my business. I really hope you are, because that is what is really going to change the trajectory of your business. And if you want a place to start, I would love to invite you to the show notes. My new group coaching program. It's a year-long program and you can enter at any time for an entire year. It's called the Fame Ready Entrepreneur Program. And what this is weekly calls with me, as well as monthly guest expert sessions. So every month I'm bringing in different experts from the PR and personal branding industry to give you like highly specialized trainings. These could even be event coordinators that host conferences or events, and you can network with them so you can maybe get some of these opportunities yourself. So the Fame Ready Entrepreneur Program is currently accepting new clients. You can head to the show notes if you want to learn more about what that program looks like and the investment. But that's going to be the best place for you to start learning how to grow your personal brand using PR. In that program, you also have access to all of the different trainings I do. So, 5 Weeks Still Famous, my original PR training program, is in that group coaching program. So, you have access to the course materials and all of the resources in that. Plus, you get to talk to me every single week. I'll do weekly live hot seat coaching sessions. So, if you do have a pitch you want me to review, or if you have a question about how you could approach pitching a certain podcast or event, you can literally pick my brain live, which is so cool. That never happens. So I think that's it for today. I hope you liked this more like raw, slightly unhinged. It felt a bit all over the place in my brain, but I think we found the flow thanks to my chicken scratch like flow chart that I put together 5 minutes before recording this. But what I really hope got through to you at the end of the day, at the end of this episode, is like, this is why I'm so passionate about this, you guys. It's not just because like I think people can do their own PR. It's because I know. It's because I know it's actually far more beneficial and efficient and powerful. It's so empowering when you know exactly how you can pitch yourself and get results. So that's why I share the information that I do. And if you like this episode, I would love for you to rate and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are big on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. Follow me at Katrina Owens PR on Instagram, at KO Your Brand on Instagram is where you can learn more about this podcast. And yeah, I hope you loved this as much as I do. And I hope you can really like feel the passion here because yes, you can do your own PR and I totally want that for you. Okay. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.